Hello, I'm Dave Chaffey and I'm looking forward to taking you through the very latest on SEO and content marketing. Thanks for joining us. I'll be looking at really the different challenges that we have, or opportunities if we're looking at them positively, and some solutions, the tools and techniques that you can apply. We're going to look at 10 different pillars of SEO and give you some practical tips and tools along the way that you can apply. So one of the big challenges we have is Google, as you'll know, makes hundreds of changes every year to the algorithm, but there's really two main challenges we still have to be aware of, and that's the penguin and the panda update. Now, these are no longer new, as you can see, but that there were updates to those being rolled out throughout 2013 and into this year. We find at ClickThrough that when we take new clients on board, there are a lot of cases where there has been perhaps some in-house link building, which has caused a problem in terms of the penguin update, and we do actively run link detox programs for new clients. So a bit later we'll look at the details of some of the updates and how you can check whether you've been affected. The Panda update, known as Farmer as well, this is where Google was really looking for good quality content, and if the content quality wasn't there, then sites were penalised, and that's really brought this idea of content marketing to the fore, which I'll be talking a lot about, how you can work on your content marketing to improve that. So these are our 10 pillars we've developed at ClickThrough with myself and Phil Robinson, the owner of ClickThrough. And looking back, I think when I started working at ClickThrough several years ago, there was a lot of discussion of technical SEO, and we talked about on-page and off-page optimization. So on-page, getting the right keywords on the page to match the user queries, off-page, the right types of links. And in fact, looking back further, when I wrote the Consultancy Best Practice Guide in 2006, that was all that was included there. There was still a big guide at 200 odd pages, but looking at the most recent one, it's now up at 450 pages, so there's that many factors we need to get right. So let me run through the pillars we've defined. Now, these are part of a process that we run with new clients and also with quarterly reviews with existing clients as well. Now, in 30 minutes, I thought it made sense to start with what I see as most important, and that's the content marketing strategy and outreach. So we're going to cover that first, then we're going to look at the analytics and monitoring side, and that's where I'll look at the tools, and then we'll finish up with the technical SEO and give you some pointers of how you can keep up to date with the latest changes as well. Of course, there's a lot of detail behind our 10 pillars, and we'll do detailed audits looking at, we've got a methodology where we will look at the current performance and then look at recommendations. So that's both for new and existing clients. So it's a gap analysis really of prioritising areas to improve. So the first area we're going to look at, as I said, is content, and although Google has improved their Webmaster guidelines, and certainly everyone in SEO should check those as they're updated, they really don't give us that much to go on. The latest here says, of course, that you need original content and you need content depth. And in fact, one of the things I'll show you soon is a practical tip if you're a blogger, is that longer form posts do tend to perform better. So what we're looking to avoid, though, is this. If you work in business to business marketing, This is actually from a specialist, Dr Kessler, who works for an agency called Velocity Partners, and he created this great slide share showing that many people realise content marketing is important, but they're not creating sufficient quality content to cut through to make a difference. And I'll show you in a moment with a tool called the Content Marketing Matrix how you can do that. So this is what we should be trying to do. What I would say is you can't create fantastic, awesome, standout content every day, but what you can do is to plan in some major initiatives where once a month or once a quarter you do aim to produce content which is literally the best in the market, and that's really what you need to plan in. So I mentioned there this issue on length. Now I remember when I started working on SEO in the late 90s, and I was looking at pitches from different SEO agencies. They would often say that the average page length that they recommend when they were creating new landing pages for Google, as they called them, was about 250 to 400 words. But if you look at this analysis, it's a great post, this actually, from Neil Patel on ClickThrough. Worth downloading the deck later to have a look at this. You'll see that longer posts not only get better positions, but they get more shares through social media. So it's a real win-win there. And we're not saying that every post needs to be this length. You will have a mixture. But it seems that you're rewarded in blogging, at least, for longer posts. And there's some more analysis here actually from Moz that shows a similar thing, that for blogs at least, longer form content gets more links. So how do we create a plan for this? Well, I firmly believe you need a content strategy, and that should be at the heart of your digital marketing. It obviously needs to be what your audience will be interested in and share, but it has to support the sales of your product as well. So it's finding this sweet spot here which should drive your strategy, and that's the sort of content you need to find. If you're not aware of it, this quote here is from Junta Joe Polizzi at the Content Marketing Institute. Worth checking out their resources on content strategy as well as the ones we have at ClickThrough also. So this is an example of actually our content marketing that I've developed at Smart Insights, the publisher I run, and we've actually found that infographics work fantastically well, both for business to business and business to consumer. And this particular infographic has helped us rank well in the content marketing strategy area, and you can see that it's showing that there should be a hub that you focus on, and you have regular posts there which are a combination of curated content, so it doesn't all have to be original content. It can be where you're summarising what's new in the industry, or what your consumers may be interested in the here and now. So real-time marketing, this is often called. So we need to think of the right types of content to feed in at the top, and I'll cover that in a moment on the matrix. But what we also need to do, I just wanted to flag up here that if you look at the bottom right, this is an area I think that's often missed, doing sufficient work to work with partner sites and influencers to help share your content. It's often said that you should spend at least as much time on that as you do in creating the original content. But I'm not sure that's always the case. But so it's certainly something we try to do at ClickThrough. And this is an example where for a charity client, we actually were doing phone and email outreach to 20 influencers. And it's also useful to look at distribution. So SlideShare, ScriptD, if you've got this sort of content, you can share there as well. There's also paid distribution that we would advise on. With the Twitter promoted tweets and Facebook as well, it's worth sharing. LinkedIn too. So I've mentioned there the content marketing matrix as a way of creating a strategic approach to content marketing, and we'll often run this in workshops. So these are just some photos of some flip charts that I popped on the floor in a workshop. And what we're really doing is we're reviewing 4 different types of content which will help us share our brand, generate links, but also convert clients as well. So those 4 areas are entertain, inspire, educate and convince. And as we're reviewing our different content options, we should review them in all these different ways. So to put a bit more detail on that, this is again something we've developed at Smart Insights originally. If you read this from left to right, it's really the purchase process from where someone first gets to know about your brand through to purchase, and you need different sorts of content for that case. Now, depending on the brand, you're going to have more emotional or more rational content that will work. So a great example of branded video in the entertain category would be the Dollar Shave Club video that's I was showing this at a talk the other night. It's actually up to 15 million views now on YouTube. So that's great for awareness, but it's not right for all types of brands. If it's a higher value proposition, you might want more rational content in the bottom left. So what I'd recommend you do with the content matrix is use it first of all to say what types of content do we use now. So do an audit rather like the one here. Look at what competitors do as well, and then think where are you missing. When I run this in workshops, you'll often find that companies have a lot of educate content in the bottom left, but not so much entertain, and regardless of the type of business, that's going to be useful for generating awareness. Now, I said I mentioned some tools that you can use. In search agencies, we love link analysis tools, and we do still continue to use those. So Majestic SEO and Moz we use for reviewing clients and competitors. But these days we've got another way of looking at which content is successful, because obviously link building, you can see the links back to particular content types through those link auditing tools. But I personally find it really useful to use these 2 tools. So one is Social Crawlytics, and the other one is part of QuickSprout, again from Neil Patel. I think the Social Crawlytics is actually, I remember writing about this back in 2012, so it's been around a while, and I think this is a more visual, more recent version. But you can see that what it will do is it will look at the shares across the site. It will crawl the site and look at the shares by content. If you can then export those and categorize them by content, you can really get some practical ideas of the type of post you should be writing, which would engage your audience. And then what you should do, as well as looking at that picture of the individual posts and content, is to look at how you share those within the customer journey. And the original hub I talked about, think about where that is. You can see that on ClickThrough we've recently updated the site top right there to focus the attention on the books, white papers. So that's really our content hub. It's not necessarily just a blog, it's different places, different areas on the site where you can engage through content. And of course it's important to flag these up in the customer journey as well. One of the things we do on Smart Insights, we have a a free guide to digital marketing planning, and we make sure that's in the right sidebar of all our blog posts, and we get thousands of sign-ups a month due to surfacing that across the site. Another practical thing that we would do is to have a pop-up bar at the bottom flagging that tool for lead generation. So it's making your content visible as well as part of site design is the work we do with clients here. So a couple more examples of this idea of content strategy in practice. So we've got a pretty competitive market here of business insurance, and these days what we see within the search results, it used to be often the home page that would rank highest. These days it's the deeper pages, so for all three of these, and you see this in consumer insurance as well. And the way that you would get those deeper pages to rank is by having the right resource. This is really another example of a hub. Now, Simply Business, although they're an insurance company, they've invested a lot in this knowledge and community area of their site. That's actually one of their main navigations. So it's become part of their brand, and there's an incredible depth of content which shows what you need to do to compete in this area. And their audience is often small and mid-sized businesses. So, for example, they've got this guide to Google Analytics, which isn't at all what you would expect an insurance company to have. Whether that actually supports the sale of their product, I'm not sure, but it's still an interesting example to take a look at. Now, looking at the consumer market, I remember when I wrote the first e-consultancy guide nearly 10 years ago now, Cheap Flights were one of the top SEO companies in that sector, and they still are. They still rank well on this term. Something they did back then, and they still do, is to develop the travel guides here, which add extra depth to the page in terms of length. It allows opportunities for internal linking as well, and it's good for the visitor too. They might bookmark or share the page. So you can see the internal linking that's being done here, which is still a ranking factor. Google has introduced filters which, if you have footer links or sidebar links that are the run of the site, they will be down-weighted. But if you have links within a particular section to show that you've got a theme of content, then so you're not repeating those links across the whole site, just in a section, they can still be quite effective, and that's what that's what Cheap Flights are doing here in the other user searches box, and in their popular routes there in the footer. So we've looked at the content types that you should create, how you should surface them in the site, but a big additional part of this is how you schedule the content. And it's often said, and I absolutely agree with this, is that every business has to think like a publisher now, and that means that you have a publication schedule, you have editorial calendars like this one here, where you're looking at repurposing content for different purposes. I think a mistake many companies make is they'll create one piece of good quality content, but they won't share it, they won't repurpose it in different ways, and that's what this editorial calendar encourages you to do. The other area that's often missed, as I mentioned earlier, is the outreach, and what I'd recommend here is that you segment different groups, different types of influencers or partner sites, and you put a lot of time into phoning, emailing, contacting them by LinkedIn, email to get the best results. These particular influencers here are within the marketing area, and you may recognise some like Seth Godin there, or Brian Solis, the personal brand but you can't always get to these A-list bloggers, if you like, so you need a range of other contacts that you would approach as well. So the next two sections are relatively short, because I did want to focus on the content marketing, as we promised, the topic of today's webinar. So now we're going to look at planning and analysis, and we've got a big challenge here, because the approaches that we could have used maybe 3 years ago, I wrote this post on the ClickThrough blog about gap analysis, where we could really see the opportunity to perform better. So this was an example for people looking for LCD TVs. We looked at the monthly search volume through the keyword tool, and then compared that against the natural and paid actual number of visits and bounce rate to see where we could make the biggest improvements. And since that time, in 2010, ClickThrough did a lot of work like this to audit and improve the client performance. We still do, but we're a bit hamstrung, as many people are, because Google Analytics won't now report the natural visits because of this problem that I'm sure you've heard of, called not provided. So this is a tool that actually tracks across 60 sites the number of not provided. So this is where, if we take a look in Google Analytics, we're not seeing the actual keyword that's being sent through to the site. So this was a company I was working with here, an e-commerce site, and you can see they're actually getting 150,000 of visits a month, but of those they just don't know which keywords they're coming from. So we really need to go beyond that original way of reporting in Google Analytics, and you or your agency should do that, because otherwise you can't really see what's working, what's not. So the technique that you should use to do that is to integrate your Google Analytics with Google Webmaster tools. I'm sure many of you have done this already, but just flagging it up if you're not aware of this, if you don't work full-time in SEO. So with Google Webmaster tools, what that will do is it will show you a listing of where your visitors are arriving, and with particular content types as well. So this example is from Smart Insights, and we were doing some content marketing around marketing models. So if you want to see how well that's working, what we could do, at the end of that 3-month campaign, we could see that we'd generated this much awareness, and we generated 10,000 clicks just in that area, because we were filtering on models, which was in the keyword of the URL here. And this is actually the way that we handle it at ClickThrough. I asked Peter Philpott, our SEO director, to do an anonymised version of the way that we use Google Webmaster tools, and you can see that we're comparing Google Webmaster tools against the search volume estimates from the Google Keyword Planner, and we're able to do a form of gap analysis. So we can go through with clients which keywords are performing well or less well. So where there's a sort of missed opportunity, like these lower ones, we can look at new content marketing to schedule that in. So a gap analysis is still a really powerful technique, and particularly if you combine it with your paid search marketing, and you can report on that in Google AdWords now. One other pointer I would give here is, although you often see keyword lists like this, when you're having the initial content strategy discussions, it's a good idea to think of generic, so to make it more customer centered, think of types of searches. So we were working here with a garden centre, and we were looking at the top level of different types of advice. So generic searches for garden centres or plants, and then more specific searches further down the page here. So I've highlighted some of the tools as we've gone through. We use all of these routinely. When you download the deck afterwards, you can take a look at them. I'm sure you know many of them. So some are search, some are content related, some are online PR, some are experience. That's really the toolkit that you or your agency needs to deploy today. I just call out a couple of these on the experience. Crazy Egg, Optimizely, and what users do. Fantastic customer insights that you really can't get from Google Analytics. So in the final section, I'm just going to briefly talk about sources for keeping up to date with Google's changes. If you're a full-time SEO, you'll know these, but many on the call may not be, and they need to keep up with the latest changes. So probably the best top-level view is the Moz Google algorithm history, and you can see that 2014 has been relatively quiet so far. So worth bookmarking that, checking it out perhaps once a month. There are other better sources which go into more detail. This is a recent blog post I did, and I as well as the obvious, which is the Google Webmaster blog. Probably the best single source for me is the SEO Roundtable. They've got a Google Updates category, so if you click through on the source, you can find that where that is, and that's really updated weekly with the latest changes you need to be on top of. Webmaster World is still pretty good. That's a forum, and we actually saw on Smart Insights a drop 1 week. This month it's actually reversed now, which I'm relieved about, but I went onto Webmaster World to see what people were discussing. There are monthly conversations, mainly for smaller sites and people who are really pushing the limits of SEO though, so a lot of people complaining on big brands. Just be aware of that. Now before we finish, there was just one other particular challenge. It wasn't in the SEO Moz summary of algorithm updates, because it was actually an announcement from Google's head of web spam, Matt Cutts, on his personal blog, and this caused quite a storm in the blog world back in January. So he was actually saying, don't guest blog, which was a massive shock to a lot of companies that now rely on this. And I did a post where I took a look at this, and Matt Cutts will never give you a straight yes or no you should do or not do something, although he went pretty close to it here. So I went through the arguments, and if you look at what he was saying, is he was saying you shouldn't do low quality guest blogging just for the sake of it. If your content is shared and authoritative and it generates links and shares, you should continue. So I'm flagging this up because I'm seeing some people saying we shouldn't guest blog anymore, and I think that's crazy to just jump for every change without really thinking it through. And in fact, Matt Cutts did retract a bit on what he said in his original post, and did rewrite it to say that quality guest blogging is still acceptable. Mobile is something I haven't mentioned that I just wanted to briefly mention in passing. We look at this with all new and existing clients, because Google did update last year its guidance on this, and it may now penalise you if your mobile site's giving a bad experience with perhaps more server errors or redirect errors, and you can again access these in Google Webmaster Tools. So with most sites now having more than 15-20% of visits by mobile, and for some consumer sites it's up to 50%, it's essential that you look at your mobile SEO is delivering and do a gap analysis on that as well. And a final tip now, this is the real-time marketing. I've said you need to plan ahead with your content, get a schedule, but also, like a publisher, you need to jump on the latest trends, or to take advantage of particular times of year. So one of our most popular posts at ClickThrough last year was where we were looking at the predictions for the year ahead, and we did a nice mock-up. I thought it was a nice mock-up of the way Google Plus would look. So we invested quite a lot of effort to do that, but it was rewarded through the shares you can see there. So if you don't know ClickThrough, we're well established, great process, which is why I like working with ClickThrough, attention on analytics and the tools, and that's been reflected in some of the awards we've got there. So a very quick 30-minute run through. I hope that's helpful. Thanks for listening in, and all the best for your combined SEO and integrated content marketing in 2014.